praying for officers. But as Tobago sees unprecedented number or rise in crime, this morning we're talking a bit about restoring Tobago. And to have this conversation with me this morning, I have Mr. Rex Henry, who is a member of the Pastors and Ministers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. And I also have sitting with me here Mrs. Janet Parks, who is the coordinator of Mobilize Tobago. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
I mean, we are not the only persons who are seeing the rising or the escalated numbers in crime on the island of Tobago. You guys have been noticing it as well, and now you are making a call to restore Tobago through prayer to combat the crime situation. Talk to us a bit about the initiative, Ms. Jen.
Good morning, Tobago, and those on the World Wide Web. Thank you for the opportunity. So, Mobilize Tobago is a movement that was launched in July 2023, basically to mobilize the church without walls, to move across all the denominational divides for exactly a reason like this. And we have decided to continue to work together and to have a day where we have set aside time, not just to pray, but also to have a mass rally where we can present solutions. So on May 31st, Friday, it's a public holiday. We have identified churches across the entire length and breadth of Tobago, and it's not limited to one denomination. So we have Seventh-day Adventists, Methodists, Moravian, Pawi, you name it. Because crime, Anglican, and so on, because crime affects everyone. Crime is not limited to a particular person, neither to a class nor a creed. So at 10 o'clock along those, in those areas, we have identified initially 10 areas, and the interest has spread. So we now have 11 churches throughout the length and breadth of Tobago. At 10 a.m. sharp on May 31st, we will have a church service for 2 hours. And that church service is basically going to be pulling people within those zones to come into one place to pray. We all know what 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, if our people pray, then God is going to heal the land. And our cry is, what has been going wrong? Because we have been praying. But then there's the aspect of unity. We need to be unified in, believing that we can really be healed. So that's part of it. And then at 12 noon, we're all going to travel from those 11 locations, and we're going to converge at the Scarborough Amphitheater, where we're going to have a mass rally. And at that rally, we're going to have various segments, presenters, and so on, dealing with crime, talking about community safety, talking about your personal safety. We're going to be having some survivors who have their parents or relatives who are victims of crime. We're going to have one or two of them talk about the impact of what that has had on their lives. We're also going to have one or two persons who were in crime, but they're now reformed, to talk about their journey. So, that's basically where we're at with this process, where we really can't just sit on the sidelines anymore, see what's happening and not move into action to say, come, everybody, it affects all of us. We want everybody find out. There'll be announcements and so on, so you'll know exactly which church is within your area, with your zone. 10 o'clock, we're asking you to make that sacrifice to go in, and let's unite in prayer for Tobago, and by extension, Trinidad and Tobago.
Excellent, excellent. And what do you guys hope to accomplish from this event? I should ask, Mr. Rex.
The expectation of the Pastors Association is that this is really a beginning of events. We had a meeting a couple of Mondays ago. The person in charge, the chairperson of the Pastors Association is Bishop Sheldon Holder. And several of the members, they outline a number of strategies. Some of them are going to be local, some of them are going to be community-based. So part of the prayer is something that not only has to start, but it has to continue. So it's something that the Pastors Association is what we would call that word, partnering with Mobilization Tobago. And this partnership from prayer is meant to get us all involved in the process of, because first you need to, a few weeks ago we were talking about attracting the presence of God into Tobago. And they were talking about how do you attract God's presence. And one of those things is by repentance, that we can identify what are the areas in which we as a community have messed up. We've been rebellious and stubborn against God. We've known what was the right thing to do and we didn't do it. A lot of our funding may not have gone where it would have done the best community good. And we've invested in things that turn around to bite us. There was a time I think Tobago wanted to be the party capital of the country. And the party capital meant that a lot of the people who came to Tobago, liked Tobago, stayed here to party, because you can move from party to party to party, because that was the mentality as part of our tourism product. Repentance literally means shifting direction, changing the direction you're going in. And that's your first thing. So it has to have an internal emotional element to the process. And then secondly, you need to have a plan. So the Pastors Association is talking about partnering up in the community with a crime plan where we are engaging our community in terms of reporting guns. I think the head of the organization is very, very passionate about getting the guns off the streets and partnering with the institutions and stuff. So the hope is that at the end of this process, we would have a mechanism by which we're not only going out there and engaging people. One of the other people on the Pastors Association that I think want to be noteworthy is that in a couple of weeks, they'll have a discussion about mentoring men and going to the boys on the street, talking to them, confronting some of the challenges they have, and attempting to reintegrate them into the community.
Okay, and what about you, Ms. Parks? Tell us, what do you really hope to achieve, and what type of public engagement are you expecting?
Okay, so we have engaged the village councils, we have engaged the churches and mass, we have engaged the business community. I've sent out information for the schools, social services. We have basically done our part in terms of creating the awareness and the interest. And the message is very simple. Crime affects every single one of us. We have heard of the robberies, the murders, and what have you. And it's not a situation where you can sit and believe that you are immune to it. You could be walking down the street and you're gunned down because the gunshot that was meant for somebody else was directed at you. But in terms of expectation, as Rex said, this is the beginning and there's really no ending, because as we start to impact lives, there are going to be things that we have to do as a church, as a community, to continue that transformation process. So Rex spoke about reaching out to the men. The next guest who will join me will be talking about our counseling initiative, because in that rally on Friday, we're going to be having booths set up for people to actually go in, the Life at the Crossroads program, to say to these youths, there are alternatives to crime. You know, we have invited the police youth clubs and so on. So we have a booth specific to counseling, because what has transpired since COVID is that there have been so much pain, so much grief. You know, the social services system is overwhelmed, and we're saying as a church, we need to also, actually we should have been leading that process where we minister to the whole man, not just to the spiritual man. So on Friday, we're going to have a booth, a counseling booth for people who are having difficulty processing what they have been going through in terms of having a lost one, whether it's since COVID or before, whether they lost their mother by violent crimes and so on. We're saying visit that booth, talk to a counselor, get an appointment, because of course we won't be able to see everybody at that point in time. But the idea is to start that conversation, to start to really minister to the whole man. You know, as a church, we tend to just focus on the spiritual. But the mandate is for us to minister to the entire man. So in terms of my expectation, it's going to be the beginning of a continuous process, you know, where we can reach people to be once more whole, W-H-O-L-E, to become whole again. I'm also a business person, and I'm seeing in the workplace where people are no longer able to cope because of depression. Some people have suicidal thoughts and so on. What's triggering that? Where is that coming from? And then there's another element of it where we have to engage the powers that be to make sure that there's productive employment, to get these people who are involved in crime back out of crime, because I'm in the construction sector, and if you don't have productive employment for these gentlemen to do, some of them are going to slip through the cracks. So it's a holistic approach where we want to engage everyone to come on board to see how we can truly restore Tobago back to a place of peace and back to a place of safety.
Excellent, thank you. And guys, we're going to take a brief break and we'll be back right after this. Good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago. Guys, we are continuing our conversation on restoring Tobago with the event Restore Tobago that would be happening this Friday, the 31st of May. We're talking about prayer, we're talking about coming against crime and violence on the island of Tobago. So, Ms. Parks, so tell us what the program exactly on Friday. You said that you first are going to be gathering at the different churches within the different districts. Then you are going to have a motorcade that leads up to the Scarborough Amphitheater. And for you guys who don't know where that is right behind the Scarborough Library. And so when they get there, there are going to be booths, different things that they can get into regarding mental health and other things. Tell us a bit about what the actual program when they get there is going to look like.
Okay, so at the mass rally, we're going to have several presentations. The police service, we've asked them to talk about personal security and protection. They have agreed to do so. We're having a representative from the Division of Community Development talking about community safety, because they have a program that they intend to launch in the very short term. We have a businessman talking about the changing environment of conducting business in Tobago. You know, it's not like 10, not even maybe 4 years ago, it has changed. And then we have invited, as I was saying earlier, some victims, people who have, you know, suffered as a result of experiencing crime, not themselves, maybe their parents and that kind of thing, to share their experiences. And then we're going to have representatives from the Men of Purpose, which is a group of reformed offenders who have changed their lives around, and they're going to share with us their journey, which we are hoping will be encouragement to those persons who are so inclined to go, you know, that way. After that, we're going to have a panel discussion where the persons in attendance will be able to field questions and also to offer solutions. You know, so we really want people to come out and be engaged, because the village councils, we have sent out letters to them, and quite a lot of them are quite excited about it, and so on, because people also need a forum to express what they have been feeling. You know, there's not been many avenues for people to speak out. Yes, we've been having marches, and we encourage in marches and so on, but then what next? You know, so coming out of that, we will be giving feedback to the security forces in terms of, this is what people are saying. This is what they are feeling. This is what they are experiencing. There's a lot of fear in Tobago. A lot of fear. People no longer want to venture outdoors after certain hours. And I mean, life is about having, you know, relationships outside your home. You may want to go in the sports field. You want to go to church, whatever, the supermarket. There should be no fear, apprehension to be looking left, right, behind you to see whether someone is following you and that kind of thing. So we really want to have that conversation where people can freely say, listen, I'm recommending X, I'm recommending Y, and it's not going to end there. We're going to collate that information and we're going to send it on to the security services. We're going to do our part. We're going to do our part, and we need everyone to come out and have your say.
Excellent. And during the break, we have been joined by Claysha Ravello Hector. Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome, who is also a guidance counselor. So as you touched on a bit, there is the grief that is left with the family after crime. Tell us a bit about some of the work that you have been doing in this area, and how can persons be more engaged and encouraged to actually seek out counseling?
Well, like you just said, morning, right? I am a guidance counselor. So a primary school guidance counselor. So I deal with children between the ages of 5 to 12, 13. And we are seeing where the children are also exhibiting symptoms of the crime that may be happening. They are identified patients, right? So they are exhibiting the symptoms of what is happening in our community, right? So as a guidance counselor, I do my part when I have one-on-one counseling sessions where I'm able to offer psychoeducation and practical tips to help them. But the reality is the children is one part, right? We also have to include the parents, because children obviously are heavily influenced by their parents, by the home unit, right? And they are influenced by the things they see and what they experience at home. So we need parents and we need the adults to become a bit more self-aware and recognize when something may not be right in your home, when something may not be right with you, and have enough self-awareness to say, hey, I'm experiencing a challenge within myself. I'm experiencing a challenge with my emotions, with, you know, a challenging experience that I may be going through, and I need to seek help. So we basically are just trying to push this initiative so that people can feel open, they can feel comfortable to seek support necessary for a change.
Excellent. And so you would have a booth there, or would you be speaking at the event?
Well, I will be at the counseling booth, right? This morning I'm representing my lovely pastor, Pastor Roselle Andrews from the Upper Room Worship Assembly, and we were given the task, or the responsibility rather, of managing the counseling booth, as we recognize that there are many individuals that probably was affected, that may have been affected by crime, whether directly or indirectly. So offering psychological and emotional support is imperative in this instant, right? Because when an individual experiences a traumatic event, usually there are negative symptoms that emerge from that experience, like fear and helplessness, or even sometimes when that is not dealt with from inception, it can spiral or develop into something bigger, like depression or anxiety disorders or trauma or stress-related disorders, right? So our goal there with our counseling booth would be to merge the spiritual counseling with practical counseling. So the spiritual counseling would be us leaning into our faith and our belief in Jesus Christ to impart hope and a sense of solace to the individuals. Meanwhile, doing that simultaneously with practical counseling skills, where we'll be able to assist the individual to navigate any cognitive distortions they might have surrounding a traumatic experience with crime, or practical skills such as grounding techniques that are usually used for when you have anxiety, or even if it's to direct them into the right areas within the Tobago House of Assembly that offers or has referral resources that may be able to better assist them. So that is what we are going to be doing there at our counseling booth, merging spiritual and the practical to give a holistic intervention to the individual.
Excellent, excellent. And I guess, guys, that's something that you would definitely want to come out and benefit from. But before we wrap up this morning, Mrs. Parks, tell us why it's important for Tobago to come out and be a part of this event.
Oh, thanks for that opportunity. It's a clarion call. Crime affects every single one of us. And I want to appeal to the clergy in particular to encourage your congregations to come out, not just to pray, but also to journey to Scarborough afterwards, so that we collectively can offer solutions. Let's see how we can start to break it down one step at a time. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's going to be a process, but we certainly want to encourage everyone, all the school children. We want to encourage you to come out as well, because we all know there is crime in schools. It's terrible, actually, in a lot of the schools. So everyone, the business owners, the village councils, the police youth clubs, everyone, every person who could walk, who could get to a church, we want to see you. Because we need, if there's nothing else we can unite on, I think we can unite on trying to really restore Tobago and to resolve crime. Let's get the peace and the safety back in our homes, in our businesses, in our schools.
Excellent, guys. Thank you so much for being here this morning, and we hope that you do have a successful event on Friday. I'll see you guys. We are going to have a quick break, and I'll see you soon right after this.